Hey, it's Stu here again, and this one's another in this series of simple sort of MBTI styled videos that I'm doing. The previous two in this series being our outer image and our cognitive core, and the information is derived from a book called I'm Not Crazy, I'm Just Not You from Pearson and Albritton. This part is about what's referred to as our motivators, and it's in relation to the extroverted aspects of the functions. So there's a disclaimer here, I'm not completely sold on this. I don't really believe in the forced IE or EI thing that the PJ dichotomy sort of slaps onto the types after the fact. And these motivators are entirely dependent on that, which I'll explain now. The motivators in the book at least are SP, NP, TJ, and FJ. If we pay any attention at all, we'll realize that there's no E or I included there. Where my issue is with how these are simply assumed for no credible reason. I see the reasoning here as pandering to something that's just been accepted without any real skepticism, sort of bandwagoning, if you will. But it's part of the book and it is accurate with how the MBTI portrays itself. I'm just not huge on the assumptions the MBTI makes about our types after the fact. So in saying this, I've actually adapted these motivators to reflect what makes more sense to me. I can't morally sit here and talk about or explain something that I don't actually really believe in, but the adaptations I've made will still make sense, as we'll see. So bear in mind that this is my take, my subjective perception of the motivators from the book, based on the same information, because I think that what's here still applies really, really well, actually pretty much perfectly even, but I've removed the pandering in relation to the P and J dichotomy and its effects on our function stacks. So with that out of the way, my motivators then will look like ES, EN, ET, and EF. That's going to be ES, your extroverted sensation, EN, extroverted intuition, ET, extroverted thinking, and EF, the extroverted feeling. It makes more sense to me, right? Having the E there when we're talking about functions and the extroverted attitude, it just makes more sense. This idea is also way more consistent with my understandings of Jung's work as well. Anyway, the ES, extroverted sensation, well, in the book they're referred to as the SPs. These types of people are adaptable realists. They're focused on current happenings, what is actually occurring in their immediate environment. They tend to seek out new experiences. They like to gather new sensory information, and they're adept at adapting to what's happening around them. They're aware of what's going on in the tangible physical world, and they tend to be believers in an economy of effort. They're not the types of people to exert more effort than necessary. The amount of energy that they need to exert is what they will exert, no more and no less. If these ES types have these natural motivators denied, they can become inattentive or distracted, like lazy and unstable. In other words, if you remove the ES types from the real world, if you force them to theorize for too long or to get too imaginary or theoretical, you'll lose them and they'll just switch off. Their motivation is external and it's external sensory data. Remove this and you deny them their reason for being, in a sense, which is the common theme throughout all of these. So EN, extrovert intuition, which is in the book, they're the NPs. These types of people are generally innovative, imaginative, and original. They're usually quite independent, non-conforming, and like the S types, they also seek novelty. But it's with new challenges rather than new experiences. You could look at this as them searching for new possibilities rather than new real-world information. If the EN types are denied of these natural motivators, then they get restless and distractible. They find it harder and harder to deny themselves gratification as well, and they seem to change their minds a lot. Pronounced ES and EN types, ones that have a stronger S or N than their T or F, will experience their motivator as a sense of limitless, of not being controlled, of having no real boundaries. This can of course be seen as having no real sense of direction, but that's the way they like it. They prefer to go with the flow. ET, extrovert thinking, referred to in the book as the TJs. These are the tougher-minded, analytical types of people. They're usually quite precise and ambitious. They're typically logical decision makers, and they can be pretty skeptical and critical. If they're denied these natural motivators, then they can get hard-headed, domineering, a bit too proud of themselves as well. They sort of become tense and stern, kind of like they think they know better than you, but they're irritable, like they think you're stupid or something, when it's actually a reflection of their own inability to think in accordance with the external environment in that moment. It's not actually a reflection on you, it's on them. EF, extroverted feeling, referred to in the book as FJs. These types of people are responsive. They tend towards the more informal side of things. They're expressive and energized by relationships with people, and they're the ones that you'll see are observant of other people's needs. The EFs are usually the first to spot or at least act on their perceived needs of others. If the EF types are denied these natural motivators, then they become preoccupied or distant, as this people focus is really what they're all about. And they get a little bit too critical and evaluative of other people's motivations. They get a bit hardcore into theorizing on what people are up to when they're not actually able to interact with the people themselves. Pronounced EF and ET types, ones that prefer their T or F over the S or N, aren't the same as the ES and EN types. They don't crave that kind of freedom. Instead, they experience their natural motivators as a solid sense of direction, of priorities, of things they know need to get done, and it's this sort of clearly defined goal sort of mindset that gives them that motivation. That's the end of this video. Again, I want to stress that while this information is derived from I'm not crazy, I'm just not you, this video and the next one, which will be in relation to the introverted aspects of these functions, is my own adaptation of that information. I'm using ES, EN, ET, and EF because those combinations of the letters make way more sense to me, because I just refuse to pander to the forced sort of IE and EI functions stack that the MBTI slaps on after the fact. The book uses SP, NP, TJ, and FJ, where I've used the ES, EN, ET, and EFs. I explained my reasoning at the start of the video. I stand strongly behind my own reasoning because it's just what I've observed. It makes the most sense to me according to plain logic, as well as just raw observation. I don't see SP types as having an extroverted sensation, for instance, unless they're an E-type. I don't see the TJs as having their extroverted thinking unless they're an E-type. It just doesn't make sense to me, and it just doesn't match my reality. It doesn't match what I've observed. I understand some people will see this all very differently, and there'll be people who just disagree because the MBTI tells them we have alternating IE and EI stacks. I completely get that, I understand. I see this video as part of a speed reading styled series, and it goes alongside the outer images and cognitive core videos, which I'll put in the description below. That's it from me. Cheerio out.